Now that we know how to read in messy text, we want to learn some basics for how to manipulate, search for, or split that text. So in this lesson, we're going to cover some basics on regular expressions. If you're new to regular expressions, a regular expression, or regex for short, is a text string used for describing a certain search pattern. So if you're familiar with wildcards for search, like if you wanted to search for any CSV file on your computer using star.csv, this is basically just a supercharged version of that. Regular expressions can take various forms that we'll experiment with in the next lesson, but to give you a very quick example of what I mean, this regular expression will just search for the explicit NLP string within some other string. This isn't so much a search pattern as it is an explicit command for what we want to find. So if it was I love NLP, then this search pattern would just capture and return NLP. Another way to identify that NLP string would be to use this expression. And this will just search for all single characters between J and Q in whatever text we're looking at. But this will search for all characters between J and Q, not just N, L, and P. The other consideration here is that this will only return single characters at a time. So this would return N, and then L, and then P, and also whatever other characters between J and Q in your text string. This isn't usually what we're looking for. So we can solve that issue of only returning a single character by simply placing a plus sign outside of our brackets. What that will tell Python is that it can search for strings longer than one character. So what this will look for is any character between J and Q, just with the added flexibility of returning strings of multiple characters together that are between J and Q. Switching gears a little bit, this one will return all numbers with the flexibility of returning sequences of more than one number. So if there's a year like 2017, it will return the full year rather than each number individually. And then lastly, to combine these two concepts, this will search for sequences of characters between J and Q or numbers between 0 and 9. So if you had a course name that was NLP 2017 without any spaces, then it would return that full string. But if you had NLP 2017 with a space in between them, then that would return them as two separate sequences. This is just 5 very quick examples, but there's literally an infinite number of patterns that you could come up with, and regexes give you the power and flexibility to search for almost any kind of pattern you could imagine. The examples are useful, but why do we actually care about this? Regexes are particularly useful when dealing with text data because a lot of the data is unstructured, where you need to be able to use these patterns to try to create some structure within the document. For instance, you could use a regex to identify the white space between words or tokens, or even let Python know how to split up a certain sentence. Another use is to identify delimiters between columns or end-of-line escape characters that indicate the end of one line and the beginning of another, like we saw in our SMS spam collection dataset. They can also be used to remove punctuation or numbers, clean HTML tags, or just identify some random patterns that you're interested in. A few examples of regular use cases might be confirming passwords that meet some criteria. So maybe a company requires one capital letter, one lowercase, and one special character in their passwords. You can create a regex to confirm that each new password created matches that criteria. Then the last 3 all kind of fall under the same broad category of searching for a certain pattern, like file names, so find all the CSVs that meet this criteria, or some portion of a URL, so maybe it's whatever follows .com or .org, or scraping for key information from a larger document like package version numbers from a technical report.